A heavy rain made her soaked, and Michael, who accidentally entered the bathroom, aroused taboo desires. On a drunken night, the two were lost in a brief intimacy, and Emily mistook him for a boyfriend. In the quiet confines of Riverside Elementary School's office in Orlando, Florida, young teacher Emily Turner furrowed her brow as she reviewed Alex Johnson's dismal test scores. The bright afternoon sun filtered through the blinds, casting long shadows across the desk cluttered with graded papers. At 28, Emily was known for her dedication, her fair skin glowing under the fluorescent lights, her figure graceful in a simple blouse and skirt that spoke of professionalism rather than allure. She picked up her phone and dialed the number listed for Alex's father. "Hello, is this Mr. Michael Johnson, Alex's parent?" Emily asked, her voice steady but concerned. "Yes, that's me. Miss Turner? What's the matter?" The response came in a deep, resonant tone, laced with an undercurrent of distraction. In the background, a faint rhythmic sigh echoed, like the whisper of waves crashing on a distant shore, intimate and uninvited. Emily's cheeks warmed slightly, a flush of discomfort rising as she pushed the sound aside. "It's about yesterday's assessment test. Alex's results aren't where they should be, and I'd like to discuss ways to support him. Are you available now?" She kept her tone professional, focusing on the child's needs. A pause stretched on the line, broken only by those subtle breathy echoes that made Emily shift in her seat. "Sure, go ahead," Michael replied finally. As Emily outlined the scores and emphasized the importance of foundational skills in elementary education, the background murmurs grew more pronounced, like a storm gathering strength. She hurried through her points, her words clipped, and ended the call abruptly. Leaning back, she exhaled, her face still tinged with heat. "Some people," she muttered, glancing at her watch. It was barely 2 p.m. How could someone be so indiscreet during the day? Shaking off the unease, Emily turned to lesson planning for the week. Her phone buzzed with a notification, a friend request on her professional messaging app from Michael Johnson, Alex's dad. She hesitated, her brow creasing again. Adding parents wasn't unusual, but this man had left a sour taste. Duty won out, she accepted, prioritizing her responsibility to the student. Almost immediately, a message popped up. "Miss Turner, are you free tomorrow? I'd like to discuss Alex's studies in person." "We can talk here," she replied, her fingers tapping impatiently. "It's about arranging extra tutoring for Alex. I'd pay well, 1 session a day, $1,000 each. If that's not enough, we can negotiate." Emily's irritation flared. This felt less like a request and more like a command, as if her time were a commodity. "I'm sorry, I don't offer private tutoring," she shot back. $2,000 per session, came the instant response. She left it unread. 10 minutes passed in silence, and she hoped he'd given up. Then her phone rang, the principal. "Miss Turner, come to my office if you're free," the voice commanded, leaving no room for refusal. Principal Harold Simmons was in his 50s, his balding head gleaming under the office lights like a polished dome. Emily had always avoided unnecessary interactions. His leering glances and occasional accidental touches made her skin crawl. But he held the power in this school hierarchy. She entered, suppressing a wave of nausea at his oily smile. "Miss Turner, about Alex Johnson in your class." "Yes?" she prompted, standing rigidly. "His father, Michael Johnson, is a major donor to the school. He wants a tutor for Alex, and we've decided you'll handle it. As his teacher, you're the best fit. Schedule it around your time. The school will compensate you." Emily's blood boiled. "Principal Simmons, I." He waved her off. "This is a school decision, tied to your class performance reviews. And you're in line for Teacher of the Year. Keep it that way." The veiled threat hung in the air, forcing her to swallow her protest. Work came first. She couldn't risk her position. Back at her desk, a message from Michael arrived, a location pin for his home, followed by a smiling emoji. Emily sighed, resigning herself to the task. The next afternoon, after school on Tuesday, Emily followed the address to a gated community on the outskirts of Orlando. Michael's home was the centerpiece, a sprawling villa with manicured lawns that screamed affluence. In a city like Orlando, where housing varied wildly, this estate was a symbol of excess, far beyond what Emily could ever afford on her salary. She wasn't envious. She believed in living within one's means, finding contentment in simplicity. She rang the bell, clutching her lesson plans. Since agreeing, reluctantly, to the principal's mandate, she crafted a tailored program for Alex. 3 days a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays after school for 2 to 3 hours, and full Saturdays. With this structure, she was confident Alex could catch up in a quarter. She'd even discussed it with her boyfriend, David, who supported her unconditionally. Thinking of him brought a soft smile to her lips. His encouragement was an anchor in her life. The door opened to reveal a housekeeper, Mrs. Ramirez, dressed neatly. "You must be Miss Turner. Please come in. Mr. Johnson mentioned you'd be here." Emily followed her through the grand courtyard, admiring the landscaped beauty, cascading fountains, shaded bamboo groves, and a gazebo tucked in the corner. It was unexpectedly tasteful, a serene oasis that eased her tension slightly. Not what I expected from a man like him, she thought, recalling the phone call's awkwardness. She'd pegged Michael as crass, his life a whirlwind of indulgence. Inside, the villa was 3 stories of opulence. The foyer opened to a soaring living room with gilded accents and plush leather sofas that screamed luxury. It was gaudy, clashing with the courtyard's elegance. Typical flashy style, Emily mused, unimpressed. "Alex is in the study upstairs," Mrs. Ramirez said, leading the way. In the study, Alex, a third grader with tousled hair, was engrossed in his phone, shouting at a game. Mrs. Ramirez cleared her throat. "Miss Turner is here." Alex looked up, startled, and set the device aside. Emily adopted her teacher voice. "Alex, have you finished your homework?" He shook his head, looking down. "No, Miss Turner." "Remember, homework first when you get home," she said gently, patting his shoulder. "Let's get started." Alex's eyes lit up. "Really? Thanks, Miss Turner." As they settled in, Emily noted Alex's shyness, a child often alone in school, with few friends. Colleagues had mentioned his parents' divorce. The big house felt empty, likely contributing to his introversion. Her heart softened with sympathy. Mrs. Ramirez excused herself, and Emily guided Alex through his assignments. He was bright, grasping concepts quickly, but easily distracted, perhaps from too much screen time. She formulated a plan to build his focus. Unbeknownst to her, Michael had returned home. Hearing from Mrs. Ramirez about the tutor, he climbed the stairs, pausing at the study door. There was Emily, leaning over Alex's work, her voice a soothing melody. Michael, a successful businessman in his 40s, tall and commanding with a charm honed by years of deals, watched quietly. Her poise, the way her hair fell like a silken veil, stirred something in him, a spark of admiration mixed with an unspoken pull, like a flame drawing closer to tinder. Emily sensed eyes on her, a prickle of awareness. She turned, meeting Michael's gaze. "Hello, Miss Turner. I didn't want to interrupt." She nodded curtly, and returned to Alex, unsettled by the intensity in his eyes, a heat that lingered like summer air heavy with promise. Michael stepped in. "Alex, listen to your teacher." The boy tensed, his hand trembling. Emily shot Michael a glance and comforted Alex. "Just focus on your work." As she continued, Michael lingered, his gaze drifting to her profile, her lips parting in explanation, her form a graceful curve. The room felt charged, a subtle tension like thunder on the horizon. Emily felt it, her discomfort growing, but she pushed through. "Finally, that's enough for today, Alex. Remember what we discussed, no more games before homework." Alex beamed. "Thanks, Miss Turner." Michael smiled. Son, give us a moment. To Emily, thank you for your time. It's my duty, she said coolly, packing up. I should go. Stay for dinner? It's ready. No, my boyfriend's waiting. She emphasized it, a boundary drawn. I see. Let my driver take you. I'll bike home, it's close. She left swiftly, the air behind her still humming with unspoken currents. Over the following weeks, Emily adhered to her schedule with unwavering punctuality, arriving at the Johnson Villa on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays to tutor Alex. The boy's progress was evident, his once scattered focus sharpened under her guidance, his test scores climbing like vines reaching for sunlight. The routine became a rhythm, a professional commitment that Emily approached with the same dedication she brought to her classroom. Yet, Michael's presence lingered in the background, his occasional appearances in the study adding a layer of quiet intensity to the sessions. He would nod approvingly at Alex's work, his eyes sometimes drifting to Emily with a respect that masked deeper currents, like a river's underflow. One Thursday, the skies darkened unexpectedly as Emily cycled toward the villa. Thunder rumbled in the distance, and within minutes, a downpour unleashed, soaking her to the skin. Her blouse clung like a second skin, her hair matted against her face as she rang the bell, shivering in the chill. Mrs. Ramirez opened the door with concern. Miss Turner, you're drenched. Come in. You should take a hot shower to avoid catching cold. Mr. Johnson's guest bathroom is upstairs. Emily hesitated, but the logic prevailed. She couldn't tutor effectively while dripping water everywhere. Thank you, she murmured, following the housekeeper to the luxurious bathroom, its marble surfaces gleaming under soft lighting. Alone, she peeled off her wet clothes, the steam from the shower filling the room like a veil of mist. The warm water cascaded over her, easing the cold, but her mind wandered to the ethics of her situation, being in this home, under this roof, where boundaries felt increasingly porous. Just as she stood under the spray, the door creaked open. Michael entered, his own shirt plastered to his frame from the rain, revealing the contours of a well-toned physique honed by discipline and drive. For a heartbeat, time suspended. Emily's gaze locked on the play of muscles beneath the fabric, a raw strength that evoked a forbidden admiration, like gazing at a sculpted statue come to life. A flush crept up her neck, not from the heat alone, but from an unbidden thought, how such vitality contrasted with David's gentler build. Michael cleared his throat softly, his eyes averting with a flicker of surprise. Sorry, I didn't realize, he backed out quickly, closing the door with a click that echoed in the steamy air. Left alone, Emily leaned against the tile, the water mingling with her racing thoughts. She imagined David with that same commanding presence, a fantasy that stirred a subtle warmth within her, like embers glowing in the dark. But guilt followed swiftly. What was she doing, entertaining such notions? She was here for Alex, bound by duty and morals. Shaking it off, she finished quickly, drying off and slipping into the dry clothes Mrs. Ramirez had left, a simple blouse and pants that fit loosely but comfortably. Descending to the study, she found Alex waiting eagerly. Miss Turner, you're okay? Yes, let's dive in, she said, forcing a smile, though her mind replayed the accidental encounter. The session passed in a blur, her explanations crisp, but her focus wavered slightly, a faint tension lingering like the scent of rain. As the lesson wrapped up, Emily gathered her things. That's all for today, Alex. Great work. Michael appeared at the door, his expression composed. Miss Turner, it's still pouring outside. Stay for dinner? Mrs. Ramirez has prepared something special. Emily paused, the memory of his silhouette fresh, a pull she couldn't deny, like a moth drawn to a flame's glow. The invitation felt harmless, yet tempting. All right, she agreed, surprising herself. Just dinner. The meal was laid out in the dining room, candlelight flickering against crystal glasses. They chatted about Alex's progress, Michael's business travels, and Emily's passion for teaching. Laughter flowed, easing the earlier awkwardness. Michael signaled for wine, a rich red that poured like liquid velvet. "To better days," he toasted. As glasses clinked, conversation deepened, the wine warming her veins, blurring edges like a soft fog rolling in. Emily felt lightheaded, the room spinning gently. "I should go," she murmured, but her words slurred. Michael and Mrs. Ramirez helped her to a guest room, the housekeeper retreating discreetly. Alone with Emily, Michael gazed at her flushed face, her form relaxed on the bed. The wine's haze amplified his longing, a fire stirring within, fueled by her beauty and the evening's intimacy. In the dim light, he reached out, his hands gentle as he eased away her clothes, a moment of surrender where desires converged like shadows merging in twilight. Emily, lost in the fog, mistook him for David, responding with a yielding warmth, their connection a brief, hazy dance of shared vulnerability, 10% of the night's tension captured in the subtle rhythm of breaths aligning, like waves meeting the shore. Dawn filtered through the curtains, casting a golden hue over the guest room. Emily stirred, her head throbbing, disoriented by the unfamiliar sheets. Her clothes were gone, replaced by a robe. Beside her, Michael slept peacefully. Panic surged like a cold wave crashing over her. "What have I done?" she whispered, fragments of the night returning. The wine, the laughter, the mistaken embrace that had felt so right in the moment, a comfort she'd never known with David. She dressed hastily in her dried clothes from the night before, slipping out. In the hallway, Mrs. Ramirez met her with a knowing look, offering breakfast. "Miss Turner, about last night." The wine hit hard. "Mr. Johnson helped you to bed." Emily's mind blanked, her face paling. She nodded numbly and fled the villa, the rain-cleansed air doing little to clear her turmoil. At home, she paced, piecing together the haze. The intimacy had been intoxicating, a depth of connection absent in her relationship with David, a forbidden fruit that left her questioning her choices. But guilt gnawed. This was a betrayal of trust, ethics, and self. David was out from an overnight shift. She showered, scrubbing away the evidence, vowing to bury the incident. For the next 2 sessions, Emily avoided the villa, citing scheduling conflicts. In school, Alex approached her. "Miss Turner, why haven't you come? Did I do something wrong?" Her heart ached. "No, Alex. I'll be there this Saturday." His joy was a reminder of her duty. Saturday arrived, Emily's nerves frayed like threads in a worn tapestry. She rang the bell, heart pounding. Michael opened the door, his expression a mix of relief and remorse. "Miss Turner." "Emily, come in." The air was thick with awkwardness, a silent storm brewing. Mrs. Ramirez led her to the study, where Alex waited eagerly. The lesson proceeded, but Emily's focus wandered, moral questions swirling. Was she compromising her integrity by returning? 2 hours in, Michael knocked. "Alex, why don't you take a break? I need to speak with Miss Turner." Alex left, and Michael closed the door. About that night, the wine clouded judgment. "I shouldn't have let it go so far. I'm sorry." Emily met his gaze, her voice steady despite the turmoil. "I was drunk, mistook you for David. It was a mistake, one that challenges everything I stand for, my role as a teacher, my commitments." He nodded, genuine regret in his eyes. "I understand. Let's focus on Alex, he's what matters." In the days following, David's behavior shifted, as if an invisible rift had formed. His calls grew shorter, his affection cooler, like a fading ember. Arguments escalated over trivialities, their once solid relationship cracking under unspoken strain. Emily wondered if he sensed her secret, the guilt weighing on her like chains. One evening, it culminated. "Emily, this isn't working," David said, his voice flat. "We need to end it." Tears stung her eyes as they parted, the door closing on years of shared dreams. Alone, she reflected on her lapses, the moral crossroads she'd navigated poorly. Michael called soon after, having heard through school channels. "Emily, I'm sorry about David. Want to talk over a drink?" They met at a quiet bar, sharing stories of loss and regret. Michael's vulnerability emerged: his divorce, his neglect of Alex, his search for meaning. "You've shown me what family could be," he confessed. "I want to build that with you, ethically, starting fresh." Emily hesitated, but his sincerity resonated, a balm to her wounds. In time, mutual respect blossomed into love, grounded in redemption. They married, committing to a life of honesty, supporting Alex as a family. Emily's journey taught her the fragility of morals, the power of forgiveness, and the ethical path to true connection.